journey of continuously improving ourselves step by
You,
step.
Ferrari needs someone with more ambition. If that's seriously what he's saying after all of the things that have happened throughout this year, he needs to be gone. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
It's in.
What's going on, guys? It is JJ here, back with a new video, and today we're going to take a look at the Ferrari strategy in F1, taking a look at why their 2022 game plan has not worked in nearly every single race. I'm hoping this is a breakdown of legitimately why certain decisions have gone their way, or what is going through their mind, because it just doesn't make sense. The majority of it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's actually the most bizarre and frustrating thing to think about, and the new F1 2022 manager game has came out, and I'm hoping they are playing it so they can better their strategy, or they need to sack their strategist. Essentially, that's what needs to happen, I think, in my opinion, because I don't get how they've cocked up so many decisions back to back to back. It should be a great driver's championship right now. It should be a 2-horse race. Hell, it could be even a 3-person race with Carlos Sainz. And it just hasn't worked out, and it's so disappointing, because I remember, because it's my first full F1 season, I remember coming into the season saying I wanted to see sort of a 2012 remake, where, you know, there's a new car winning a race every week, there's a bunch of drivers going for the drivers championship, like just something where it's not just one car dominating everything, and it is one car dominating everything. It's Verstappen and Red Bull, and then even Checo and Red Bull. Like, they're going to probably take 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship, and it's going to be so sad. At least we get Hamilton versus Alonso, and LECLERC versus Ferrari, pretty much. That's the other one. But okay, we're going to take a look at why Ferrari's strategy has been so awful in 2022. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let's get into the video. As well, guys, you can find the original video down in the description below.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Breakdown.
We
try to analyze events surrounding F1 in a manner that is objective as possible to offer more insight into how it could affect the sport.
It's hard.
Without further delay,
it's so hard to not be objective when thinking about Ferrari's strategy. I'm not even a Ferrari fan, but it's for the sake of the sport. Just like, how dumb can you be? Like, that's literally it.
Here is the breakdown. Ferrari have almost become the laughingstock in F1 thanks to a pretty consistent recent history of botching strategy calls. This trait has proved particularly costly this year, as they have already lost a sizable chunk of points to bad strategy decisions. I'm your host Dylan Shelley, and first up on the breakdown, why Ferrari suck at strategy. It's often easy to criticize split-second decisions made by F1 teams. It has to be acknowledged that F1 teams, and especially their strategists, are under immense pressure to make the right calls, with time often being an extremely limiting factor. As such, all teams make poor strategic calls once in a while. Ferrari just seem to take things to another level and do it with alarming regularity. In 2022 alone, Ferrari have gotten their strategy blatantly wrong at the Monaco Grand Prix, British Grand Prix, and the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Let's add, what else can we add to that? Yeah, no, it might just be those 3 races. In terms of, like, nothing mechanical. So, like, French Grand Prix, that's LECLERC's mistake. Barcelona, so the Spanish Grand Prix, that was just gearbox crapping out on LECLERC while he was well ahead. What else? You could say Spa. Like, him losing a place to Fernando Alonso at Spa was unnecessary. Obviously, they didn't know he was going to speed in the pit lane, but, like, they could have just left him out there. He would have kept his points.
We've also made a few other smaller blunders as well. 3 races out of the 13 so far ruined by bad strategy is a sizable chunk, especially when the unreliability of the Ferrari engine is also taken into account. This is poor, even by the most lenient standards that could be applied to an F1 team, let alone its oldest and one of the most successful. Trying to get to the root of why Ferrari keep making these blunders isn't easy. As is usually the case in F1, there are multiple reasons why this keeps happening, and here are a few possibilities. Laid-back approach to the season. Mattia Binotto had in the past stated the following about their objective for the 2022 season while speaking to the BBC. We set our objectives to be back competitive in 2022. So our objective is to be competitive, not to win the championship. And it would be completely wrong to turn that into, let's try to win the championship.
It's such a bullshit mindset. That's such a if you're going to compete, your goal should be to win the Drivers' Championship. You're not competing to be competitive and be second. That's not a thing that you... I'm guessing maybe they think Mercedes and Red Bull would have just been the top two again and that they could just be closer to them, when in fact Mercedes has completely dropped the ball and Ferrari could have easily filled their spot in that top two rivalry, and they just didn't.
Any one of the remaining teams, possibly with the exception of Red Bull, would give anything to be as fast as Ferrari are, and consequently would give their all to go for the championship. Binotto making such statements publicly well into the season could lead to complacency, as all they have to do to reach this benchmark is be competitive, which they are. Misplaced personnel. Despite Ferrari being the oldest team still racing in F1, their crew is relatively young and quite inexperienced when compared to their counterparts at Red Bull and Mercedes. Binotto himself is an engineer who has been thrust into the role of the team principal. Then there is Ignacio Iñaki Rueda, their sporting director and the man in charge of strategy. He too is an engineer whose only previous experience of the role of a strategist was at the now defunct Lotus team. Barring the two fruitless seasons when Sebastian Vettel challenged for the championship, he has never been in the heat of a championship battle. He has never been in a battle as close as the current one with Red Bull, period. Going through the list of other key personnel at Ferrari shows that this is actually quite a common trend where engineers are thrust into such positions. They lack specialists that the other teams have. It's also worth noting that through the many senior changes that Ferrari have made since the beginning of the turbo hybrid era, an era for which they aren't well regarded for making wise strategy calls, one man has remained and somehow avoided getting the sack. You guessed it, their head of strategy, Iñaki Rueda. Stubbornness.
He should get the sack.
This is one trait that has often been associated with Ferrari from their inception, and while it has paid dividends sometimes, it is not without its detriments. For many, it is as clear as day that Ferrari have to make a few changes to salvage 2022. However, Binotto has the following to say about it to Motorsport. I don't think that there is anything different that we need to do. I think it is simply to continue on our journey of continuously improving ourselves step by step.
Ferrari needs someone with more ambition. If that's seriously what he's saying after all of the things that have happened throughout this year, he needs to be gone. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
It's entirely possible that Binotto is digging in his heels as a consequence of Ferrari having been so flippant about overhauling their team structure and personnel throughout the past decade. Perhaps the pendulum has swung too far the other way. Plan-oriented instead of result-oriented. While most teams tend to stick to 2 or 3 strategic options, it has become almost comical how many strategies Ferrari seem to turn up with for each race. It's become quite common for them to resort to Plan D or Plan E, while everyone else is choosing between Plan A and Plan B. We don't know for sure if they do indeed go into races with 5 or 6 plans or just use a different nomenclature, and to be fair, the assertion of the former is entirely speculative. But it is entirely possible that they keep far too many unnecessary strategy options up their sleeves. Either way, there tends to be plenty of confusion during key crunch moments. There is also a tendency to stick to their pre-race plans even if the conditions during the race aren't conducive to these plans at all. Oftentimes, when they've had to make a call on the fly, they seem to abandon all reason and stubbornly stick to what was already decided before the race.
It's unreal.
As they did in Hungary when the hard tyres simply didn't work as anticipated. Put all these factors together and combine them with an attitude of stubbornly being unable to accept their shortcomings, and you get an almost perfect recipe for taking a brilliantly fast car and a top-tier driver pairing and turning it into a painful, nigh-weekly exhibition. At least if you're a Ferrari fan.
It's unreal. It's honestly so unreal. I don't even know how you address their strategic shortcomings. I don't know who you sack. I don't know who you get rid of. I don't know who you bring in. Because they're just such a disaster. They really are. But that's just my thought process. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below on Ferrari strategy, Ferrari itself. And I will catch you guys for another video. Peace.